Good morning, boys and girls. This is Dr. Madison, and welcome to 4th and 5th grade music week 4. You will need rhythm sticks, pencil and paper, and headphones for this week's video. Make sure if you're coming to my live class that you're on time. Remember, cameras on, microphones off. We will use the chat sparingly. Most times I will have the chat turned off. But when it's on, please only use it to put in information about music. Make sure that you can see me and hear me, and use your headphones. Please make sure that you visit the choice board and do 3 activities a week. By the end of the month, you should have done every activity on the choice board at least once. Today, we are going to identify the elements of music in response to oral and printed prompts. We're going to work on our rhythm cards. We're going to practice meter, rhythm, and tonality with singing. We're going to do the school songs for Evergreen and West End. And we're going to start talking about recorders. It is my hope that we can play them, hopefully before Christmas. Let's begin with the Evergreen School Song. Good morning, boys and girls. This is for students at Evergreen Elementary. This is our school song. Three cheers for Evergreen School. Strike up the band and play it for all. Fun and learning is our goal. Teachers are helping one and all. Reading and writing, doing our best. Evergreen School passes the test. Proudly rising o'er the rest. And onward to Woodbury High, yes. Okay, boys and girls, and if you're at West End, let's practice your school song. Good morning, boys and girls. This is Dr. Madison, and this video is for students at the West End Elementary School. Here is our school song. West End School, we are West End School. The teachers and the students are very, very cool. West End School, we strive to do our best. With math and spelling, art and music, we never ever rest. Dashing off to school, we wear our blue and gold. We look very sharp, at least that's what we're told. We are terrific kids, and Webster winners too. But most importantly of all, we show respect to you. Oh, West End School, we are West End School. The teachers and the students are very, very cool. West End School, we strive to do our best. With math and spelling, art and music, we never ever rest. Have a super fantastic day. Okay, boys and girls, let's practice level 3 rhythms. Hello, boys and girls, and welcome to level 3 rhythms. There are 3 new rhythms in this set you need to learn. This one that looks like the letter O gets 4 beats, and it's a ta, ah, ah, ah. So it gets 1 ta and 3 ahs. Ah, ah, ah. Watch. 1, 2, ready, go. Ta, ah, ah, ah. That's the first note we need to learn. The other 2 are rests. See this one with the hat that goes up? That's always worth 2 rests. So when we see that, we put 2 rests in its spot. Watch. Ta, 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 ah, ta, ah. And the last one, which looks very much like a hat going down, gets 4 rests on these cards. Watch. Ta, ah, ta, ah. Let's try them, boys and girls. You're going to have to practice these a little bit, but when you're in 3rd grade and you master these, you get your recorders. So here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. Ta, ah, ah, ah. 1, two, ready, go. Ta, 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 ah. Ta, ah. There we go. 1, 2, ready, go. Ta, ah, ah, ah. Ta, 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 ah. These are hard, aren't they? 1, 2, ready, go. Ta, ah. Ta, ah, ah, ah. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. Ta, ah, ah, ah. Ta, ah. Good. Now remember, this is the whole rest. It takes up the whole measure. It gets 4 beats on these cards. 1, 2, ready, go. Ta, 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 ah. And our last one looks like this. 1, 2, ready, go. Ta, ah, ta, ah. Nicely done. That's the end of level 3 rhythms. Hey, boys and girls, since we're all going to be playing recorders, here's a short video on the history of the recorder.
Hi guys, Miss Whitehead here. In this video, we're going to talk about the history of the recorder. The recorder is a whistle-type woodwind instrument that is from an ancient family of instruments called the internal duct flutes. For many centuries, it was the most popular woodwind instrument. It was being used as a folk instrument as early as the 12th century, so a very long time ago. During the 16th century, several composers were writing solo and ensemble music for the recorder. 2 of these were Bach and Handel, probably the best-known composers of the Baroque time period. The transverse flute, or the side-blown flute, like what we're used to seeing today, had replaced the recorder by the 18th century because it had a much broader dynamic range than a recorder and could blend better with the larger, louder orchestras of the day. So the recorder kind of has one volume and that's all you can play, but the flute you can play loud or soft sounds. So the flute kind of took over the recorder's place in the orchestra. Recorders probably came to America with some of the first settlers. There are as many as 26 recorders listed in the inventories of various plantations in the 1600s. So 26 different types of recorders. Around 1925, the recorder began to make a comeback in popularity because of a renewed interest in Renaissance and Baroque music. Today, more than 3.5 million plastic recorders are made each year. Recorders are played in many elementary schools and can be a wonderful instrument to learn on its own or as an introductory band instrument. So if you played the clarinet or flute or saxophone, the recorder is very similar to that in many ways. Many skills are learned from playing of the recorder, such as fingering skills, embouchure development, that's how you hold your mouth, breath support when you're breathing, articulation skills, and development of the inner ear, so being able to listen. The 5 most common recorders are sopranino, or descant it's sometimes called, soprano, alto, tenor, and bass. The smallest is the Garklean recorder, which is only 4 inches long. The largest recorder is called a subcontrabass, and it's about 10 feet long. The soprano recorder is the recorder that's most often played by beginners. All of these recorders can play together, just like a choir. This group is called a consort, or sometimes you might hear it just be called a recorder choir. This video is an example of the Garklean recorder, which is the smallest recorder there is. So we'll listen to a little bit of this so you can hear what it sounds like. So you can see very high sounding recorder. So that's the smallest recorder that there is. This next video, this is an example of the sub-contra bass, which is 10 feet long. So you're going to see him kind of putting it together, and then we'll hear him play it. So kind of the complete opposite of what we just heard with the smallest recorder. That one was the largest recorder. The recorder that we are going to be playing is called the soprano recorder. And this is an example of some of the solo music that was written for the soprano recorder. So this guy's playing, he's going kind of fast. It is high sounding, but not quite as high as the Garkling recorder. So we'll listen to a little bit of his recorder solo. So we won't be playing quite that fast, but that's just an example of something you could do on the recorder. That is something that's possible to play today still. Last example that we're going to watch, this is a recorder choir. So you'll see there's some soprano recorders right here, maybe some of the alto recorders, and then down over here we go all the way to the sub-contra bass recorder. So there's none of the smallest one in this example. And you'll see they have lots of other recorders that they might use in other songs, but we'll listen to a little bit of this. This is a recorder choir. We're going to pause there. So that's just an example of what you could do with a lot of recorders. So there's lots that you can do with recorders. Obviously, we're starting at the beginning with ours, but that is kind of some different recorder sounds that you could hear.
Okay, boys and girls, one more today. Here we go. How is a recorder made? I found this to be very fascinating.
The recorder is a type of flute that's played vertically. It consists of a mouthpiece that works like a whistle connected to a tube with finger holes. Mass-produced plastic recorders are a staple of elementary school music programs. Real musicians, though, play finer wooden recorders. The recorder dates back to medieval Europe, though it was likely modeled after flutes from Asia. Back then, recorders were called flutes, and by 1500, they were among the most popular musical instruments. Around 1750, though, the new transverse flute banished the recorder to musical oblivion. It took a 20th century revival of music from the Renaissance and Baroque periods to bring the long-forgotten recorder some noteworthy attention. A recorder is composed of 3 hollow sections made of a lightweight hardwood, such as boxwood. Crafting one section at a time, they find a portion free of cracks, knots, and other faults. Then cut away the surrounding wood using a bandsaw. They measure the block's diameter to ensure it's large enough. Then they carefully mark and drill through the midpoint in order to mount the block on a lathe. Precision is critical. The block must be perfectly centered as they round it into a cylinder. Next, they use a large drill to widen the inside hole, known as the bore. They enlarge it enough to insert a tool called a reamer. Then, they ream the bore to the final diameter, which varies according to the size of the recorder. The bore tapers slightly toward the bottom of the instrument. The cylinder, now a tube, goes back on a lathe. The smooth pencil line means the bore is straight and the tube is centered. They trim the outside to reduce it to the right diameter, checking the measurement with the help of calipers. Then it's back onto a lathe for the final profiling. This is where the maker gets to flaunt his artistry, embellishing the tube with ornamentation typical of the Baroque period. It takes about an hour and a half to cut and shape the recorder's three sections: the head joint, the middle joint, and the foot joint. Now they smooth the surface of each joint with fine sandpaper. Then it's back to the technical tasks. Locking the middle and foot joints in a vise, they drill the finger holes, 7 holes down the front and 1 in the back for the thumb. For the recorder to play in tune, they must follow the precise measurements specified in the technical drawing. In the head joint, they cut a flat canal called the windway. It directs the air that's blown into the instrument. Next, they carve out a rectangular window with a sloped opening called the labium. The labium is what regulates the recorder's tone, the sound quality, so its size and angle are critical. The air the musician blows into the mouthpiece travels down the windway and hits the sharp edge of the labium. This creates a whistle effect, thanks to a block of wood closing off the top of the instrument. They use cedar because it never rots, despite years of hot air and saliva blowing on it. They complete the head joint by beveling the top. This forms the mouthpiece. Now they glue a thin layer of cork around all the joint ends. This creates a snug fit when the instrument's assembled. They test the recorder's tone and tuning, making adjustments to the workings if necessary. Next, they stain the wood, then wax and buff it to a shine. Recorders have a 2-octave or 16-note range, and they come in about 15 different sizes. The longer and wider the instrument is, the lower its register. The shorter and thinner it is, the higher the sound it produces.
Boys and girls, that's all I have time for today. We're going to work on Over the River and Through the Woods next time we're together. Have a super fantastic day.